and I said this to Drew at the start when we founded Athyna. I said, I want to create a brand that people care about for no other reason than what we stand for, and I want to create the world's greatest remote workplace culture. I want everyone to do okay. And at the moment, we're doing okay, and a lot of other places aren't. I believe that it's going to raise salaries because there's more demand in remote talent, so on and so forth, and that's good for the world.
Listen, Stokely, where we try to be involved, to listen and learn for us all to evolve. So welcome to you and welcome the world. We hope you enjoy the stories to be told.
Welcome to Stokely, a podcast where we explore environmental conservation, our human mindset and adventure. Each week we invite you into conversation with people from all walks of life, people who truly inspire us and set about contributing to a greater place for us all to call home. So please take some time to settle in for our conversation today with our host, Maya.
Hi everyone, and thanks for joining me for another episode of Stokely. I'd like to take a moment to thank the traditional custodians upon the lands where this podcast is created and listened to, and I'd like to pay my respects to the elders past, present and emerging, forever recognising their connection to land, waters and culture. Today I get to speak with Bill Kerr, who is the heart behind Athyna, a company who believes in grabbing life by the reins and caring deeply for our planet. Bill's journey to becoming the CEO of Athyna and deciding on a way to drive positive change in the world comes through time spent in some beautiful places with beautiful people, but also through some really tough challenges and personal struggles, which afforded him some deep introspection to life. Bill's a great person. Bill took in the same beauty I was afforded when I was growing up, and we both grew up on the Mornington Peninsula. And I'm so pumped to share this conversation with you, and it's a conversation about many different things, different topics, and different life lessons that have been learnt. So I really hope you enjoy this conversation, and if you do, we always appreciate some feedback. So if you reach out to us and let us know what you think, it would be really appreciated. Also, check out Athyna at athyna.co. That's ATHYNA.co. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised to see how they're creating some incredible change in the way we work in this world today. So I hope you enjoy this conversation with Bill Kerr. Thanks for tuning in.
I was wondering if I'm like, you mean through the headphones or? Hey, Kerry. Geez, I haven't said Kerry for a long time, mate. Far out. Mate, give us just a little bit of a background to who you are and what you do, hey? Because and then we're gonna delve back a little bit further and further because you're a man that's young in terms of age, but I feel like you've lived a very good life so far.
I wouldn't disagree, for sure. I would not disagree. I think you don't often kind of step back and look at your life as a sum total of all its parts. You don't often reflect like that. It's just not in human nature. I certainly don't. This is a funny one to dive straight into, but I accidentally took 10 grams of mushies 2 years ago, and I thought I died like most people do when they take, well, hopefully no one takes 10 grams of mushrooms. It's a really bad idea. But when I thought I died, and I was genuine 100% dead set certain that it was all over. Wow. And I was in this period of in between where life ends and the afterlife begins. How that they say that your life flashes before your eyes. I thought that I was in that period.
Wow.
Anyway, moral to the story is I actually walked outside. I was in Cairns, staying at this place up in Cairns for 3 months. Did a bit of a road trip and spent our winter up there, Get up into the warmth. And yeah, so I thought it was all over. I was crying, thinking. I was thinking about my mum and my brother. They were the two people I was thinking, oh no, I've really upset them. That was really all I cared about. Was damn it, I've fucked it for them, for those guys. They're gonna be really upset. But at one point when I thought I had died, I crossed my arms and I looked up, and this particular night, every single star you could ever imagine was in the sky. and I looked up into the sky. This is just me, right? So just me, solo by myself. I looked up into the sky, and I had a big pause and a big sigh. I said, and then I said, well, I gave that a crack.
Unreal. Oh my God.
I actually said that to myself. So I guess I've definitely, I've lived a very, very interesting life. I have for sure. Like, I mean, coming out of high school, I was obsessed with footy, and I was a footy player and all that stuff. And yourself as well. We came up playing local footy, and I went into investing in real estate really young. So I was obsessed with real estate. Don't know why. My dad kind of pushed me into it early. I don't know if you remember, but I bought my first house when I was 19 and had a couple by the time I was 21, 22. I had 3 by 22. And then, so that was like my first obsession. It was really like real estate investment while I was, just working as a tradie on the peninsula. Then kind of had a really rough year when I was like 23, and then moved on to traveling. So then I went probably like 4 or 5 years of, the next obsession was like traveling, seeing the world, having as many experiences as possible. Just having a good time, really. And then from there, I entered the fitness industry. I was obsessed with that. I wanted to be the world's greatest strength and conditioning coach, and I absolutely... The fitness industry sucks because like it's hard to make a living if you don't own your own gym and so forth. But like as far as the experience, I do miss it. I loved coaching people, It's just, I felt like I was back at school. I was just hanging out with people all day, every day, hanging out with my mates,
Yeah.
And I was just... Someone asked me once, what do you do as a strength and conditioning, like as a, fitness coach or whatever? And I was like, well, I basically try and flirt with girls and just tell shit jokes to my mates. But in the meantime, I make sure that they're moving safely and moving well. That's like a little, the side part of what I do. So, and then I founded Adventure Fit, which kind of by accident, which was a travel startup, adventure travel for the fitness community. Our whole thing was, improving the world through travel, exercise, mindfulness, and conversation. And it was really a great product and a great experience. The brand was awesome. Did a lot of things really, really well. Did a lot of things pretty poorly in terms of like making money. We were growing and like we would have figured it out, but I kind of lost passion for it. And I'd already started Athyna, which is what I do now, remote recruitment agency, global talent sourcing. And so then, shut Adventure Fit down and kind of moved on to Athyna and what I do now. And outside of that, so I've, in terms of professional career or like, what I do day to day, 9 to 5, whatever, 7 to 4, if you're a tradie, I've done a lot of different things, none of which make any sense, From a tradie into the fitness industry doesn't make that much sense, into adventure travel doesn't make that much sense, into recruitment doesn't make that much sense, but you just figure it out. So yeah, I've done a lot of stuff in my time, and I'm pretty. If I look back, I'm pretty proud. But at the same time, a lot of people haven't had the experiences that I've had. But a lot of people are, my age, and they've got a couple of kids, loving family, like all that stuff, and that's really quite valuable too. And people often look at my life and go, man, you've travelled so much and you've lived I've had people like mates come up to me at the pub and say this stuff, crew from the peninsula, crew that have known me for a long time, and I'm like, dude, you got a fucking family of 3, like you got a wife that you love and like 3 wicked kids, like who's fucking winning here?
Yeah,
but I have lived a very diverse set of experiences, that's for sure.
Yeah. For sure, mate. Yeah, I think you're right. Hey, it's so strange. Hey, how what's right in front of us can often just be like, you can almost just like not see it. And like you say, your mates with kids and family, good job and all that. Yeah, they still come up to you and like, oh, I live vicariously through your photos. And it's like, fuck. Don't do that.
Yeah, I'm like, bro, my photos are fake. That's all made to look pretty. I'm like, I'm doing, I'm not having that much fun.
Yeah.
I'm not having as much fun as I look like I'm having.
No joke, mate.
But it's, the grass is always greener, mate. Like, so an example of that is, so we just had one of my housemates just left like 2 Fridays ago. He was a Turkish bloke living in Melbourne, and I'm telling you, this bloke, Doric, his name was, he is a fucking legend. One of the nicest blokes I've ever met. Just like laughs at all your shit jokes, really insightful and like really, really deep conversations. Just like always happy. Just a ripper. Yeah. Absolute ripper.
Yeah.
And then anyway, Doric and I were talking, and he was asking me about all these travel experiences I've had. And at one point he shook his head and he goes, "Oh man, can't believe you've travelled so much. I'm 28 and I've never travelled." And I was like, bro, you've been living in Australia for 5 years. Like, I've never lived anywhere else. You know, I've never lived that experience. I've never I've done all the debaucherous, like, it's fun. And I've done all, travel the right way and the wrong way, whatever. I've done all that. But one thing I've never done is I've never sat down and tried to, had the courage to go and move and try and set my roots down somewhere else.
Yeah.
Start afresh professionally, like, with your communities, whatever. Like, that takes fucking heaps of balls. And that's a mega experience. And Doric was like, oh, man, like, you've done all this stuff. I'm like, bro, you have done the exact same thing. You've lived a crazy experience.
Yeah.
But it's just like different to mine. So it's just the grass is always greener, Like it's
so interesting you bring that up because like I think that about I think that a lot when I talk to people who come up and say, oh, like you run 100 miles in one go, like that's unreal. And I was chatting to a friend of mine about this, and we said, yeah, but we spend a lot of our life making sure that when we do that, it hurts not as much as other people, right? So we spend so much time of our life to make sure it's not that painful. Whereas you look at some people, and I run past them here in like Melbourne's just a classic spot for it, and you run past them and you're like, whoa, that person does not look like they've run for like 10 years and now they're just pounding the pavement. That must be something else, And you just don't even, it's just like seeing that is more inspirational to me than watching someone like run like, like a 2-hour marathon.
Yeah.
So I'm like, that's that person's like, they're doing it and they're loving it. And this person here is like going against the grain, like the grain.
Doing it the hard way.
Yeah.
Doing it the real hard way.
And so like, it's just interesting that. And I think that can be like, that can be dissected so many ways, mate. But like going back to your story and what you've done, I think, from my point of view, I've listened to a lot of your podcasts and interviews and stuff like that. But I feel like you're a great example of someone who's tried to keep it real and who's tried to, not let it get to their head, for lack of a better term as well. And I feel like you've definitely come through it. It might have been the mushrooms that helped, but you've definitely
helped.
Like we're standing here today, and I'm like, and Kerry's, you're not a jerk, mate. Like you've gone and done a lot of things, helped a lot of people, probably made some good friends, and made some good enemies. and you've
plenty of enemies.
You've come out of it with an incredible business, which I can't wait to chat about a bit more. And you're not too bad of a bloke, mate.
Yeah, well, thanks, mate. Firstly, I'm not a stinker. I'm not a 4 out of 10. Certainly not a 7. I'm probably around
because there are a few out there, mate.
Oh yeah,
I'm referencing there's a lot of people out there where you meet them and you're like, oh geez, like oof.
You've got
like,
no idea.
Yeah, and I guess one of the things, I've definitely, one thing too, a little bit of advice for you, mate. Never leave your diary open on the desk that we're doing an interview from, because I can just look at it and I'll just pick out, pick things up all day.
Love the girls I've asked out this week.
Love it.
She said no. She said no. She said no.
Took it off. Because you're not just, you're a good person, but you're not just in business to make cash and pillage the world of its resources. You're also in it to do a different thing. And I guess where I'm going with that is like, there's got to be something that you've garnered from not just the 10 grams of mushrooms, but something else. But tell us, break that down for us, mate.
Well, for starters, there's two things there, I reckon, and one of them, the first thing you said, you gave me all these nice compliments and, you're level-headed and you've done all this stuff. But I know behind the scenes, mate.
Yeah.
Well, and part of what I'm about to say is imposter syndrome, but part of it's just the truth. So the truth is, like, from a, Instagram-facing, vantage point, from others looking at my life looks incredibly unique, So I founded Adventure Fit. So I travelled all around the world for 5 years. I was really lucky to be able to do that. But, what I did in order to do that was I had a really great start in terms of real estate and so forth and financial, this, that and the other. And I sacrificed all that, It was the right decision. I'd do it 100 times out of 100. But, that came at a little bit of a cost. There's But I was very lucky to be able to travel the world. Then it's Adventure Fit. So Adventure Fit is, people that saw Adventure Fit, they were like, oh my God, you're living the dream, I had somebody say to me one time, hey dude, so we used to, in terms of Adventure Fit's Instagram, it used to be like, we'd share one photo from a trip, we'd share one inspirational photo of like a mountaintop from National Geographic and we'd give them credit, we'd share one photo of like someone, hang gliding through the Swiss Alps from like Red Bull or whatever. And I remember one bloke, I can't remember who it was, came up to me at the pub and was like, hey dude, can't believe what you're doing these days. I was like, I hadn't really been away for ages, like it had been months. And I'm like, oh yeah, no, it's all right, like whatever. He goes, I was just looking at your Instagram the other day. I can't believe you're in Mexico, the Swiss Alps and, Mount Kosciuszko in the 1 month. And I was like, hey dude, I wasn't. What are you talking about, bro? So, but the way that my life is painted in terms of like the outside looking in looks pretty cool. But like while I was going through Adventure Fit, I had, and this is one of the reasons, I started Athyna, or Drew and I started Athyna was, I went through the small business struggles of like having absolutely no time in my life. I had no money in the bank. I had crippling like anxiety and depression and financial stress, like stuff that I would not wish upon my worst enemy. Dead set. I didn't fucking enjoy it like for the longest time.
Yeah.
I look back on it fondly now, but it like left me with battle scars, bro.
Yeah.
Like battle scars. And, people would say, fuck dude, you got the best life. And I'm just like, want to have it? Internally, I'm like, you want to fucking have it?
Yeah.
Like, I don't. So the whole thing about like, I've created some cool stuff. Adventure Fit Athyna, my podcast I'm very proud of. I'm a guy, admittedly, I'm a guy that will have it, see something, want to do it, I'll just have a crack at it. I know that's one of my strengths and or weaknesses, Yeah. And I'm good at creating brands and like, storylines. I'm a creative at heart. So like the things I create are cool, but I'm level-headed and grounded and so forth because in my eyes, and I don't think this is imposter syndrome, in my eyes, I'm just a fucking regular bloke, I'm no different to anyone else.
Yeah.
And, I just happen to do a little bit of different stuff with my 9 to 5 to what somebody else does, but like, who cares? So I don't think I'll ever be not grounded because I see no reason, no matter how wildly, Athyna will be wildly successful, like wildly successful. I have absolutely no doubt, and we're on a trajectory that is going to take an asteroid to stop us, but that's not going to, I genuinely don't think it'll make me feel any different because I'm smart enough to know that I'm fucking no better than anyone else,
Yep.
I really believe that. And then in terms of like, being in things for the betterment of, others and all that stuff, about business. I mean, that just came from the fact that I was super successful from a monetary perspective when I was 22, 23, and I wasn't really happy.
Yeah.
Like I had 3 houses when I was 23, and if you talk in terms of equity, so I was worth like, I don't know what it would have been. Maybe like, would have been 300 to 500 grand. I don't even know.
Yeah.
Something like that. Probably closer to 500, At 22, 23, that's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
But like it didn't make me any happier. It didn't make me feel like any more successful. And I realized like, what the fuck am I doing all this for? Like this is not how I should be grounding myself or valuing like who I am or what success is to me. So that's when like my mindset shifted and I was like, fuck this, I'm out of here. I'm going to go travel. Like that's where I'll have some fun and just see the world and learn more about, how things work. And then I started traveling and, again, I'm not a dummy. Like I understand that, studies show like, and I've anecdotally, like I've felt this myself, like no matter how successful or unsuccessful you are, like in terms of monetarily, it doesn't really move the needle in terms of like happiness. And that's all that fucking counts,
Yeah.
So it's never been, in terms of business wise, it's never been about, money to me. It's just always been about, as I said, I'm a creative. I just want to create cool things. And if you create something that's truly cool, like all the, revenue and X's and O's metrics that like people care about in terms of growth and success in that regard, like they'll probably take care of themselves.
Yeah.
If you create something cool for the right reason and do a good job of it.
Yeah, definitely.
I reckon.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Like, and especially if it comes from a place where you're not marketing it in a way that's not really what it's meant to be. Like, So what are your metrics then now for success?
Well, I guess in terms of personally, which is, I don't know whether you meant like business-wise or personally, like I just want to be. I'm still coming off the Adventure Fit. Like I'm still in recovery mode.
Yeah, right.
To be honest, like I had 5 years there where I was like heavily. I reckon I know they're very intertwined, but I reckon I know the difference between anxiety and depression because I reckon I felt, I know I've felt both. And as I said, sometimes they're working, concurrently or whatever. But like through the whole Adventure Fit period, like I was just like so crazy anxious, like crippling social anxiety. And you know me, I love talking to people, meeting people. Like I'm good with people, it's one of the things I love most.
Yeah.
But like I had that part of me taken away really for a large portion of time. And then, like last Christmas, I didn't go to Christmas. I fucking cried in a room at my mum's joint for like 4 hours.
Yeah.
Skipped Christmas.
Yeah.
Like with depression. And like, so me in terms of like metrics that I value now, like I'm just trying to, and granted 2020, I feel normal. That's all I want to feel is normal. I don't want to feel great. I just want to feel normal.
Yeah.
Goods and bads and whatever.
Yeah.
So, and granted, I really feel like I'm through that period, and I'm sure I'll go through periods of like, shit times again. But I now again, and have for most of the year, felt normal. So like that's my number one metric that I care about, And then in terms of like business-wise, in terms of business-wise at Athyna, what I'm governed by is, and I said this to Drew at the start when we founded Athyna, I said I want to create a brand that people care about for no other reason than what we stand for, and I want to create the world's greatest remote workplace culture. And that's it.
Yep.
Everything else will take care of itself. And everything else, we can go into, Athyna stuff if you want or whatever. Like we've been growing, 30-40% month on month for 6 or 8 months now. I'm really proud of where the brand is so far. I'm going to be much more proud of where the brand's going to be with what we've got planned in the coming years. So, in terms of what I'm governed by, making people's day awesome internally and affecting people in that way, culture-wise. And then I want to be a brand that inspires the next generation of entrepreneurs to do business in the right way.
Yeah.
That's all I care about. And I know that we will do both of those things well, and therefore will be a huge success if you want to talk about other metrics in terms of dollars and cents and all that stuff.
Definitely not. Not interested, mate. To be fair.
But you know what I mean? Like they go
Totally.
They go hand in hand. Obviously, you're a Patagonia ambassador, which you were telling me earlier, which is so sick. But like they're the best example of Yvonne Chenard has said a number of occasions, like every time he made a call that would benefit the world, or like made the right call from a social perspective, it benefited his bottom line.
Yeah.
Their bottom line, because they're just doing things right. And when people see that, they'll back you in. They'll pay more. They'll fucking stay on longer as a client. They'll refer their friends to you. Like whatever. All these intangibles, they add up. And it's like making the right decision, like externally, is always the right decision internally. That sounds right, doesn't it?
That was
Could be a
smooth.
quote.
That was smooth. Can we write on the
I
blackboard?
just came up with that actually.
Mate, I think and I'm just stoked that you've got that mindset now that you've got Athyna going. Because it's amazing how it actually blows my mind how more people don't do that.
Yeah.
And some people, they don't consider it. They kind of completely go in the opposite direction and work in these archaic ways where they're like, the way you get someone to do something is you just yell at them louder.
Yeah.
I think there's this probably it's just like, please just educate yourself on how to be a manager.
Yeah.
Don't yell at people. That's like
negative reinforcement.
Is that not like rule number one these days?
It went out in puppy training, a decade ago, but it's still kicking around in startup world. And,
it's unreal, hey?
Yeah,
unreal.
For sure.
And just a small example, right? But it blows my mind. But tell us a little bit about the biz, because I think it's something that I've heard a lot about in the background, like, you should get someone remotely to work on this and get someone to help you out. But just give us a little insight to how it works and where you've got people in the world, and because I think it's just super interesting, and you've been able to create it, mate. Like, it's awesome.
Yeah, no, it's mad. I'm so passionate about what we do, and we're remote recruiters, global talent sources, whatever you want to call it. So, like, in terms of like finding talent for your company and going to a provider of that, like, there's two extremes in the industry, right? So there's like outsourcing, offshoring, virtual assistants, customer service call centers, that kind of stuff. You know, that people think Philippines, India, and so forth. That's like, say that's extreme on the left. And then extreme on the right is like local in-house executive search recruitment by like Drake, Michael Page, all these major, massive international firms.
Yep.
So that's like the two extremes, I guess, of the industry. And we're not anything like, we're neither of those extremes. We're kind of right in the middle.
Yeah.
So like what we do is we source primarily growth-related placements, commercial-related placements. So like sales, marketing, creative is probably like 60, 70% of what we do. Operations is probably 30, 40% of what we do, which is like, you know, bookkeeping, executive assistant, customer service. We only know a couple of customer service. But yeah, like operations is kind of 30, 40%.
Yep.
And, you know, we do stuff from kind of like our entry-level role. So entry-level talent for us is like 4 to 7 years experience. So it's not really like a junior, but it's like that's our entry-level kind of thing. All the way up until like, you know, C-level execs who, you know, we got a couple of candidates. One bloke recently placed Danilo. He's an Italian bloke. He was a senior media buyer, so like advertising. Sourced him for a client of ours up in Canberra. And like he ran Puma EU's marketing in 2018 at this last agency he was at. His marketing budget was 35 million euro per annum, you know, like 50 mil marketing budget.
Yeah.
Like this dude's like one of the best marketers on the face of the earth, you know, like he's a recent placement, you know, stuff. So, and we source, you know, all over the world, you know, we source out of Buenos Aires, Sao Paulo, Johannesburg, and Manila primarily, depending on what somebody wants. So, somebody wants marketing and creative, we'd probably go to Latin America. They want sales or copywriting, we'd probably go to South Africa, and they want operations, we'd probably go to Manila. And we're starting to do more development as well. We've got a couple of technical recruiters that have joined us to do more development stuff. But so yeah, I fucking love it, mate. So because the thing is, I really feel like we're like the perfect capitalist model. Yeah. Really, like we're in the businesses of making businesses more money. Like really, we are. That's why people come to us. Primarily, they will come to us for that reason. Yeah. But when businesses come to us, when businesses are more profitable, they invest in like sales, marketing, growth, and they grow their team onshore and offshore. You know, that's just and I really feel, you know, it's been a tough situation. It actually hasn't been tough at all. But there's a little bit of a rub with anything that goes offshore, right? Anything that goes offshore, people think, oh, you guys are assholes, you're stealing jobs from Australians. Yeah, you know? Right. In the first 2.5 years of Athyna, 2 years of Athyna, I had 2 people challenge me. So it's obviously not something that comes up super often, but there's that rub out there. Yeah. I had one bloke in here come up to me and we were like, oh yeah. He's like, what do you do? I said, oh yeah, this is what I do, blah, blah, blah. What do you do? And he's like, told me. And then he said to me, he goes, oh yeah. After I explained what I do, he said, oh, so how do you feel about stealing jobs from Australians? And I was like, wow. Fucking hell, bro. Wow. And I looked him straight in the eyes and I said, mate, to be perfectly honest, I feel very comfortable about it. I'm very comfortable with it. I said, and I'll tell you why. We haven't had a recession in 30 years, in case you hadn't noticed. We've got 4% unemployment. We've got one of the highest standards of living in the world, and we're the world's most livable city. Like, we're doing okay. Like, have you been to the Philippines, bro? Have you been to Argentina? Have you been to Venezuela? Have you been to these places Johannesburg? Like, and because I've been to 50 countries, you know. I've got great friends in 50 countries, you know. And I don't like nationalism. I think it's a dumb idea. I'm very happy to be Australian, but I'm not proud to be an Australian because why would I be? I woke up here, you know, like I came out of the womb here. And it's just another reason to have pride is okay, but it is also a reason to be like us versus them. And I don't like anything that creates us versus them. And in the whole like support local thing, like I think we are actually the number one way to support local, like make local businesses more profitable and more healthy. That's like rule number one in like creating a good economy. But, you know, we're placing people into roles from like economies that are just garbage. And I don't wish any less prosperity on my friends in Argentina, the Philippines, India, like Canada, UK, whatever, I don't give a fuck where you live. Like, I don't want Australians to be more prosperous than you because you live in the UK or like Nigeria, fucking anywhere. Like, why would I? That'd be ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
Totally.
I mean, I want my family and friends to live happy, live healthy, whatever. But like, I want everyone to do okay.
Yeah.
And at the moment, we're doing okay, and a lot of other places aren't. So I really think I want to sit down. I've got a list of economists from The Economist, like the company, The Economist. I've got like 20 of them, and I'm going to interview them. I want to understand the macroeconomic kind of like what we do from a macroeconomic scale. So like, what does it do to local salaries? I believe that it's going to like even up the score, like bring up, local, I actually mean local in our talents.
Yeah, okay.
Like Argentinian, like local salaries.
Yep.
Whatever. I believe that it's going to raise salaries because there's more demand in like, remote talent and so on and so forth. And that's good for the world.
Yeah.
Like I really think everything we do, every touch point, like talent, client, internal team, and myself, like, like people that own shares or whatever, it's just sick. Like, it's a major, major win for everyone involved. So, I really kind of want to grow it as fast as possible and as much as possible because it's, it's a positive impact on the world. I believe that.
Unreal, mate. Wow. And what did that person say in response to you?
I don't think he said much, actually.
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly what.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm not a phony, like I'm not a sales guy. I'm not a bullshit artist. That's how I feel, and I'm very passionate about it. And I'm right. Yeah. That's the other thing, And people, when I verbalize, people don't have foresight to think, And so I really believe, and people can disagree with me. I shouldn't say I'm right because maybe I'm not. I could be wrong, but I feel very strongly that we're doing, really good in the world. And for people to like push against that, I think it's just really short-sighted, really like local, narrow-minded kind of viewpoint. So yeah, we'll probably come up against stuff like that more in the future, like, here and there and whatever, as we scale, as we grow, especially as we get bigger. But it's just like, I mean, it's been, at the advent of the internet, traditional teams, traditional offices, cities in general, became an outdated idea.
Yeah.
As soon as the internet existed, really.
Yeah.
It just took COVID to like fast track it 20 years.
Yeah.
But where we are now, where people are looking to grow their team abroad, hubs within hubs, whatever, it's always been, big business has always been doing it.
Yeah.
Small businesses' time is now and starting to become more of an option. But it was always going that way. Like, it's the internet is the internet.
Yep.
Like, how would it not go that way?
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's amazing. When I worked in London, I was working with a big engineering firm. I think we had, I think it was around about 40,000 employees, and we had these centres set up which were called high value engineering centres.
Oh yeah,
and they were like in either China, Beijing, or they were in India.
Yep.
And yeah, it's that exact same model, right? And these companies, like you say, why are they doing it? Well, they're doing it because it's good for business.
Yeah.
And it is amazing. Like I was sitting in Scotland, working in an office in Scotland. We'd speak to our people in London, and then we'd also speak to our people in Beijing. And it's just like it just connects the dots, right? And it's just an amazing experience to be able to communicate with people from a different part of the world and just work through that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I think it's great, man. And what I think the future of work looks like is. And I think we'll talk about this before we started recording. I hope we won't talk about it while we're recording because I'll be going directly over what I just said. But like the future of work for me is hubs within your team, for a lot of teams.
Yeah.
So Athyna, we're growing Buenos Aires, Manila, and Melbourne. And we may have, a couple of other hubs in the future, but that's like right now, we're building those. And we've got a couple of team members from outside of, our hubs, but really we source talent and build our team through those hubs so that we can have teams within our team.
Yeah.
And the ideal scenario would be, I really think remote is the future of work as well. Like all the studies show people want remote. They don't want full remote, mind you. They want 2 and 3 or 3 and 2.
Yeah.
2 in the, whatever you want to say. 2 in the office, 3 at home, 3 in the office, 2 at home, whatever.
Yeah.
And that's just so good for people. People's like work-life balance is going to be so much better affected by having that work-life balance. So corporate, I reckon, a lot of corporate will go back to 5 days in the office.
Yeah.
But like my mate Luke from Yeti that I was talking about earlier, I was talking to him about this recently, and he was like, "Oh yeah, dude, he runs Australia and New Zealand. Like he's head of. I think he's called like president of country or head of country, whatever now." But so I said to him, like, "What are you guys going to do?" He goes, "Mate, it's just going to be Mondays and Fridays. Monday, come in, align with the team, have all of our meetings that we need to have, get ready, get set for the week. Fridays, lunch together, a couple of beers if you can, whatever. Like really get set." And wind down, and culture and so forth. And then everything else in between, do what you want.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of like how I think the future of work will look. And, we're just like a really great facilitator of that, Athyna. But it's interesting, and this is something that I was talking about it with someone. Who was I talking about this? I was talking to somebody about what I'm about to say in the last couple of days, but I've had this conversation a few times. One of the other really good changes that remote work will bring on is people are going to be gauged by their output in terms of like not their hours that they're sitting at the office, like how early they get in, how late they stay, like what quality of work do you do, how much of it, like not that we need to make everyone productivity machines, but it's how work should be done really. Like you want people to work fairly and equitably. Like, let's say, like we've got a team of 8 at Athyna internally, and I don't know how many hours anybody works. It's fully remote. Like John, he's one of our technical recruiters. He worked at Facebook for 2 years, Autodesk, Sabre, all these massive companies. He's a weapon. Like, he could probably do his job in bloody 15 hours and I could be impressed. I don't know. Because he's that good. And if that's what he does, I don't care either. Because it's getting us a result. So it's going to be really result driven, which is awesome. Because this dude, I remember one of the comments, because this wasn't the recent conversation I had around this, but it was like, this was about a month ago. This dude, James Limnios, I remember. He was just a potential client of ours, like a lead or whatever. And I was talking to him about it. And he's real old school. Like he's like, 60 or whatever. And he's got Limnios, his company, it's like real estate and property development, like, property financing and something else, like big, all these stuff, moving parts going on. And they want a marketing manager and they were looking maybe remotely. So I was like, we're still, I've got to call him today actually. We're in talks, to get him a mid to senior level marketing manager, probably out of Buenos Aires, someone with some real talent, 8 to 10 years experience, something like that. And it may go live, it may not. But James, super old school, and he said to me on a call, he goes, well, how will I know if they're working? How will I know if they're getting your results? And I said, you'll know if they're getting your results if they're getting your results.
Yeah.
Like, same as,
No joke.
It's pretty easy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the thing is, with remote work, I don't know what your viewpoint is on, like, human beings in general, but, like, I think, we fucked a lot of stuff up as a whole, as a group, but it's all kind of mostly by accident, by bad planning, and like too hard to reverse out of some of the things we've done.
Yeah.
But I think like human beings in general, I think we're inherently good, right? Would you agree?
Yeah, no, yeah, I'd like to. Yeah, I definitely am convincing myself to believe that. Because if I don't, then what's the other option?
Yeah, I know. Right? Real dark viewpoint.
Yeah.
So like, if you believe like I do anyway, I believe that human beings are inherently good. So in terms of remote work, like no one's ever out to take the piss. Like people just want to impress, but they want to impress. They want to do good. They want to feel acknowledged. They just want to do awesome. People love it's part of life. So I think remote work will be a really great change for the world. Really, I think it's going to be a different world we're going to be living in. As it shakes out in the next 10, 20 years. Yeah. Not to mention all the freaking artificial intelligence, all that kind of business going on. So
yeah, scope out. That would be far out. Let's not go down there, mate. Have you thought about the parallel of, because you were speaking about, output quality, essentially, as opposed to quantity. So like someone comes in and sits at a desk for 8 hours a day and you just think that they're doing work, but what's the output? Sometimes you actually don't see any.
Yeah.
And I find there's a really interesting parallel to that and the food industry and farming.
Yep.
And how farmers get paid for quantity, not quality. And there's a lot of discussion at the moment coming out of figuring out a way to measure the nutritional density and the nutritional quality of food and paying farmers based on that, as opposed to paying a farmer based on the quantity. So they could grow, like, they can pump vegetables full of, like, whatever and a lot of water, and they can get 5 kilos of carrots, and you'd pay $1 a kilo, so $5 a bag. But the nutritional density of that, because they've just played with the farming tools that they've got, and then you've got like 1 kilo of like really well grown organic carrots, huge nutritional density. Don't get me wrong, I don't eat organic all the time or ever. So I'm not trying to be that person, but like you said, it's like there's this parallel, and I guess it's like we're all like there could be a potential shift to be like, you know, let's just cut the BS. Let's just do it let's just do it better. Let's just do the quality of it, and you know, where could that take us? Like, where could that take us? You know?
Well, you know, I agree. I think, look, one thing that I do think is happening in terms of like the future of work and business and so forth is big business and corporate is, you know, not going to be changing anytime soon so much, like, you know, outside of external pressures, you know. So, but new startups and so forth, like you look at like Who Gives a Crap, for example, right? Do you know Who Gives a Crap?
Yeah,
Toilet
paper.
Yeah, so they're
love it, mate. By the way,
yeah, I love wipe masks.
Do you go premium? I think they do like a what do they do? Like a bamboo blend as well.
Yeah, well, my housemate orders it. I don't actually even know.
Yeah,
it's like I think we just get the standard 3-ply.
Oh right, yeah. I think I mean, I don't order it either, but a box turns up where I'm staying at the moment. It's beautiful.
Yeah, well, we use it here. It's here in the Red Box Studios.
I might grab a couple of rolls before I leave.
yeah, we're not in a pandemic, you know, stealing toilet paper mode right now, Madge. But if you want to grab one or two, go for it. But Who Gives a Crap are a really cool example. Like, you know, especially in Australia. Like, I feel like Australia is one of the leading. I don't really have anything to back this up, by the way, but I feel like Australia is like leading the charge in like new startups and so forth that are hitting the market. So many are driven by, you know, some sort of social impact.
Yeah,
and you know, so that's not external pressures to do good. You know, like, hey, you're destroying this, that, or the other with your industry. Like, you're treating people shit, like whatever. Like, external pressures, but like internal pressure. Hey guys, this is our mission. This is our social impact. This is what we're governed by. Like, let's fucking have a crack at it. And that's like positive pressure, internal pressure set by like the stakeholders that start the company. And I think that's a really cool change because, like, you know, it's no surprise that this is happening because, you know, are you 34? We're the same age. You're 33. 33, yeah. So, you know, people our age and younger are the people that, you know, in terms of global warming and the planet being fucked up, like, we're the ones that are going to be affected, and our kids and their kids. You know, like Greta Thunberg, for example, is a perfect example. She's like, you motherfuckers, like, I'm not even going to get to my 18th birthday. This joint's going to be fucked, you know?
Unreal, hey?
So I think in terms of like the quality of stuff, like you mentioned, what was I listening to? I was listening to a podcast on how I built this. Have you ever listened to that?
Yeah.
It's sick. It's so good. So it was with Method, it was called. Method are a soap company, and they did like organic, like green, like healthy soaps and detergents and like cleaning materials. Mm-hmm. And they basically were pushing against like all of cleaning and like soap and so forth is like owned by like Procter & Gamble and all these like biggest companies in the world, you know. And they're all just doing it really, really poorly. But Method came out. I don't know that much about their brand. Like outside of this podcast, like I don't really know them, so can't talk too much, and I'll probably butcher heaps of this. But like they came out and they're like, we're doing things really well. We're green, clean, whatever. They actually had to hide those pieces of information. Really, it wasn't a strong point because people didn't trust green cleaning materials. Like they had to build their brand and then kind of let everyone know that why they're doing it. Like, and they became really, really, really big and started to get a bit of traction. But you know, a lot of the world's kind of pushing against, you know, I guess the old guard and what have you.
Yeah.
But more and more, like as companies come out, younger consumers, they're just not going to fucking do business with like shithead companies.
Yeah.
You know, it's not going to be a thing.
Yeah.
And shithead companies are going to have to change the way that their brand is going to have to change. They're going to have to be, this is the good that we do, and they're going to have to communicate the fuck out of that. Or, you know, so many brands have got such a head start that it's going to be pretty hard to catch them up, or, you know, make a major dent. But, you know, they're all bloody on the stock exchange and shit like that. They've got investors that their stock price needs to stay at X, you know, whatever. They can't recede, go backwards, or it's major bad news for them. So, like, I think business is going to have to change, and I reckon it's going to be led by, you know, people like yourself and all the crew that you're kicking around with, and all, you know, the Patagonias of the world, and, like, you know, hopefully Athyna can be a positive impact in stuff like that, and just, I think the conversation is changing from the younger generations, and I reckon it's mad.
Yeah. Well, mate, likewise for yourself, you know, like doing what you're doing is it's just something that, like, you know, you and I, we grew up in the same part of the world. Like, when did you ever hear about remote, like, working and like, it's just
or sustainability, like, in terms of business, or like all these things.
Yeah.
They're all new. Culture, you know, workplace culture, another thing I'm really, really passionate about. Like it's all kind of just, it's all in vogue now and, like, rising. It's all stuff that I think, you know, I mean, workplace culture for sure, it's always been a thing, but it's just like all the right things are starting to bubble to the surface, it seems like to me, in, like, startup world anyway.
Yeah.
Startup world.
Excellent. Because you've had on your podcast, Brolosophy, you've had chats with some incredible, like, people.
Yeah, mad dogs.
Some real, like, you know, you have a listen back through a couple of them if anyone hasn't, but it's just, it's unreal. Like, it's like you don't even talk about mushrooms. You just have a few of those conversations to listen to, and you'll be on a different planet.
Yeah, we've had some good ones. We've had some bad eggs too. We had do you ever listen on with Mike Dowd?
No, I don't think so.
Mike Dowd is he had a documentary made about him. It's one of the best documentaries ever. It's called the 6-5 or the 6-5. I think it's the 6-5, and it's like the 65th precinct in New York. That's what the 6-5 stands for.
Yeah.
I don't think it's the 6-5. It might be like the 8-5 or whatever. It's like the 6-5, the precinct name. And Mike Dowd, he's my second favourite ever Joe Rogan guest. And he was a corrupt cop in New York City.
Wow.
And, like, working for the mob, like, would find drug gangbangers or whatever, and, like, would arrest them, steal their stuff, and then sell it himself, and, like, but way more stuff than that. Like, he was kidnapping people for the mob, like, all kinds of hectic stuff.
Wow.
He went to jail for like 18 years or whatever, like 20 years. Ratted on everyone. He would have been in jail for 150 years, but he ratted on everyone. Wow. So, like, you know, he got a reduced sentence and got out after like 18 years. I met up with him in bloody Las Vegas because I was in Vegas with, I was on an adventure trip. Me and my brother went to Vegas to watch the UFC. And I don't know how the fuck we linked up and knew that each other was over there.
How did you even...
Yeah, I don't know, eh? And then, anyway, so he came down and met us in the foyer of this, like, the MGM Grand or whatever, like one major hotel in Vegas. He said goodbye to an escort as he said g'day to us. He was like, all right, baby, see you later, like, kisses her, like, says see you later, and then like, oh, boys, g'day, how it shakes her hand. Like, that was the transition.
Wow.
And, mate, he was a wild cat. Actually quite a funny, gregarious, like, good dude kind of just to chat with. Hard to not get along with him and, like, really like him, you know?
Wow, yeah.
But a pretty, well, in his past, you would say, terrible human being.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You're not hiring him anytime soon. Yeah.
What is that like? So, him, Rusty Young was one of my favourite combos for the Marching Powder. Author of Marching Powder. Like, I've had, you know, child soldiers, like porn stars, like so many interesting conversations. Like, what about you? Like, must have been good for you to get some, like...
I'm enjoying it for sure. Like, that's the thing I enjoy the most is the conversation, right? I don't know what it is, but it's just something that, like, saying that it's, you know, this is the secret, right? Saying that you're going to do a podcast interview gives you this opportunity to really have a conversation that's in a container, and you just get to, you know, be pretty open with what you want to ask and curious, and allow your curiosity to just, you know, flow. And I guess, and it doesn't really happen if very often if you are just, sitting in a doctor's waiting room and
just living your life normally.
Yeah.
You don't have long form conversations all that often, do you?
Yeah.
Especially with interesting crew.
Yeah.
Like you could just pick their brain about stuff. Like you don't get that opportunity.
Yeah. And I think it's as you say, like you get a whole pass to ask questions. Like, and it's not seen as being intrusive or, why do you want to know all this stuff? It's like, and so I don't know, I guess I just love that. And so the real question I wanted to ask you out of this whole podcast here, Bill, is actually, I don't really have one, but because
that was the first time you've ever called me Bill too, I reckon.
it's got official.
Look, well, it is my name, so.
So, mate, because all of those conversations, how have you changed over that process?
Yeah, no, it's an interesting question, because I was just, when you were talking, I was just thinking about this conversation here with Chris Smith. So, like, I reckon for sure I'm definitely probably a little bit better of a human being from like being a podcaster. And I'll tell you why, because like me and this guy here, Chris Smith from, what's his company called? Big Esports or something it's called.
Yeah.
And basically he's an esports guy. He's like one of the leading esports figures in Australia. He's not a gamer himself. Esports, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Gaming. So esports, he's not a gamer himself. Well, he is like, but he's not a professional.
Yeah.
And he's also not like, doesn't own a gaming company or whatever. I don't really understand where he fits into the market. He's like PR, like he's like an agent for like gamers, like, and he does everything. He's omnipresent in like the gaming world in Australia and globally. Like he's pretty big deal in that space, which that space is fucking massive.
Huge, eh?
Yeah, and I sat here with him and had a conversation, and I was just like, I didn't agree with anything that he was saying, like I don't agree with esports. I don't think, anyone can do anything they want. You want to fucking play video games all day, every day and compete in it, that's fine. Like, I'm not begrudging anyone. I just don't think it's a positive impact on the world. And he was trying to convince me otherwise. And I wasn't agreeing, and that's fine. And one of the cool things was, though, like we were able to sit there and disagree, push back on each other and find some common ground. But we didn't find that much common ground. And that was also fine.
Yeah.
Like it was cool. So the ability to like just have a conversation with somebody, try and understand their vantage point. If you don't, agree to disagree, it's a very healthy thing.
Yeah.
And the problem that we have right now is, this is why podcasts are so popular, is there's fuck all of that. There's fuck all of like, oh, that's how you feel? Oh, well, I actually feel totally different.
Yeah.
But I see kind of what you mean, and I would love to hear like these other few points, like tell me a little bit more about that. Oh, and I might maybe learn a bit more.
Yeah.
There's fucking none of that going on. Like YouTube, like we've all seen The Social Dilemma. Have you seen it?
Yeah.
We've all seen The Social Dilemma. We all understand how fucking YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, whatever works. We're fed the same thing, and it's becoming more of a divide. And conversation is it's hard to have like meaningful conversations and kind of in a disagreeing fashion.
Yeah.
Like to try and understand each other's points.
Yeah.
So that's why podcasts are sick, because there's no bullshit in a podcast. It's just like long form conversation, getting it out there. There's no clips, mini bites. Like it's not like a talk show. It's like, and it allows people to fucking sit down and chew the fat and kind of understand each other a little bit. I reckon it's super important. So because it's hard these days with what's going on. It's a weird, that social dilemma, man. Like fuck, I already thought like that.
Yeah.
But that just like reinforced it and made it just open my eyes to just the fact that it's probably way worse than I already thought. Like it's not healthy. I actually spoke to Kevin Kelly, the dude who founded Wired magazine in San Francisco. He's like, people say he's like the world's leading futurist or whatever. Like he's one of them. He's like very respected guy in like futurism, like tech or whatever. And he wrote this book called, I don't know what it's called now. I forget. 11. It was like 11 future trends or something. It was basically about like problems that we are having that we need to kind of address. Very similar to this book here, 21 Lessons for the 21st Century by the Sapiens guy.
Yuval Noah Harari.
Yeah. You can. I'm glad you did that. But real similar. Like here's a bunch of issues that we have coming up. here's some potential solutions. Here's the things we need to be thinking about. That was kind of like his book. And one of the main things that I spoke to him about, that he was talking about, was like the divide between, like what you're fed on the internet and kind of like where a happy medium is.
Yeah.
Such a huge divide. Like you're never going to have somebody who's like crazy right wing, like, this, that, or the other. You're never going to feed them like a million left wing pieces of content and expect them to be like, oh wow, thanks for showing me that.
Yeah,
I get it now. You know, or not saying that whatever left or right is wrong or right, but having like a bit of middle ground, like you don't get fed that. The algorithm's fucking us up. So that's why podcasts are sick. Like you just long form conversation, ability to just understand each other, and just it's super important, I reckon.
Yeah, like they could have some underlying meaning behind it. Like this podcast obviously was subliminally just making people become better people.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing.
Yeah.
That could be questionable. But and it's like independent media in a way.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think, when you, especially in Australia at the moment, when you look at some of the stuff that's coming out about the Murdoch media and they're just like, this is scary,
dude.
Like I don't want to be a part of this society that just gets fed from a one trick pony like that guy.
Have you read 1984 by George Orwell?
Oh, I haven't read it in full yet, but I've definitely cracked into it.
Dude, one of my mates shared it on Instagram the other day. He was like, "Oh, just starting this book. This is fucked up." Because it's very similar to how where we are now. Because I'm like, 34, and like we know each other very, very, very long time. So me and you are both like, real scallywags at heart. I feel like real rascals, and I want to continue to be that way, But so it's never been, worrying about data privacy, all the stuff on like the social network, and worrying about the media and news and politics in general stuff. It's not something that I've ever been, really motivated by, and I've tried to just like avoid growing up in that sense, which is good. I like the fact that I'm just kind of a little bit childish, and I want to continue to stay that way. But like, it really is scary. Like again, just coming back to podcasts, because you're fully right. Like that's why they're so popular, because no one can fuck with them. They're not owned by anyone.
Yeah,
that's why Rogan's so popular. Rogan's as popular as CNN.
Yeah, like
as many people listen to Joe Rogan. This is, again, I don't actually know if this is a fact, but I actually think...
Sounds great.
Yeah, let's go with it.
But keep it going, man.
Yeah. But as many people listen to Rogan as they do CNN. He's a major news network.
Yeah.
And, he has fucking Alex Jones on. Eddie Bravo's a nutcase, But, he has a very varied amount of people come on and tell their stories, and, there's just... The regular news media has failed us.
Yeah.
Has fully failed us now. Like, it's not coming back. Yeah. Unless they change their business model out of advertising, Yeah. And until they change their business model, you can't really trust news. And that's not a nice position to be in. So that's why, I reckon that's a big part of why podcasts are so popular. Because, like, people go to... then it's like... It is pretty sketchy, though. Like, I listen to a couple of things that I think are owned by New York Times, even.
Yeah.
And I don't know who New York Times are owned by. Probably Rupert Murdoch.
Maybe.
It could all,
Yeah.
It's all kind of, I guess it's all probably a little bit tainted, But no, there is people out there, Rogan, Sam Harris, like Russell Brand, all these major podcasters. I'm listening to a show with Dax Shepard at the moment.
Yeah.
He's really good.
Oh, which one's
Dax
that?
Shepard? The guy that used to be, remember Into the Wild? Remember that movie with The Rock and whatever?
Yeah.
Do you remember this guy?
No, I can't picture
In like the early 2000s, he was like in heaps of like, he was like the wingman, like the third guy.
Yeah.
In like, stuff like The Hangover. Obviously not in The Hangover, but like TV movies like that.
Yeah.
If you saw his face a couple of times, you'd be like, oh, that guy.
Yeah, for sure.
But he's got a sick podcast. And like, so all these like, independent podcasters, super important, I really reckon.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree, hey. And interesting that you brought up that book, The 21 Lessons for the 21st Century, because I was listening to a conversation with the author, Yuval Noah Harari, and he had this concept where he was like, I think it was him, or it might have been Malcolm Gladwell, and it was like, something like social media, it will not exist in 50 years' time if at its core is not serving like of a benefit to society, because it just will get phased out.
Yeah.
Like it's like, you know, it's something that just has to happen that way because it's not bringing any benefit, kind of thing. And I've always thought about that, and I'm like, wow, isn't that just interesting? Like if you drill right down into the core of it, and then you can have like a futurist almost project like, well, this is like, I can see this is the way it's going to go. Pretty intense.
Well, it could be that way. It could well go that way. I mean, I spoke to bloody Michael Inglis. He's a psychologist.
Yeah.
He's a buddy of mine. He's just buddy of mine through the podcast, really. He's just down the road, like 3 streets away, actually. He's got a place called The Mind Room, really great, like, psychology studio, and he's also really high-level sports psych. Like New York, North Melbourne Footy Club, Hockey Roos, like, done all, like, high level sports stuff. He's a legend. Anyway, we were talking about this kind of stuff, and he said, we were talking about smartphones, and we were like, oh, what do you reckon? This is like 3 years ago. We're like, what do you reckon a smartphone will look like the rules around a smartphone in 10 years? And he said to me, because I said to him, I reckon that when you open your phone, it'll have a warning label like cigarettes.
Yeah.
Cigarettes cause cancer, kill people, right? So we have warning labels. Social media causes depression, kills people. Like, fuck, where are the warning labels? Like, that was just an idea, you know? Like,
yeah.
And I said to Michael, I was like, what do you reckon will happen? And he said to me, he was saying that, he goes, I reckon it'll be worse than that. He goes, I reckon it's going to be so destructive that we're going to be back to using like Nokia 8210s.
Wow.
Like, it'll be governmentally like mandated that like you just can't have smartphones. So who knows, man? Like, social media could be saved. Like, social media could be saved if the business model goes to, and this again would have to probably be like coming from like governments, I guess. Even though like social media are all more powerful than governments, like the big ones.
Yeah.
Facebook pretty much. But if it was pay to play, you know, if you were like $6 a month, $9 a month, like $3 a month, whatever, to use Facebook, use Instagram, use all the platforms. Like, we pay for Netflix.
Yeah.
And we don't have, like, Netflix algorithm. Well, Netflix does want you to stay on Netflix. So, but...
yeah.
Maybe that's a bad example. But we pay for things. We pay nominal amounts for lots of stuff these days.
Yeah.
So, if the business model wasn't get these people in to sucker them in as long as possible and serve them as many ads as possible, if it was, like, pay to play, you know, that might save it. But then still... they're still going to try and make us stay on the platform as long as humanly possible, because then you're going to be more attracted to the idea, or like you're just going to be more obsessed with, you're going to be more addicted.
Yeah.
So it's probably still works the same, even if they do change their business model. So, but it's not, something's got to happen.
What have you done differently
with social media
after watching something like The Social Dilemma? Like, you know, like, and I guess even more broadly, like, you've spoken to so many people, and like, what things have you actually taken away from those conversations and put into your daily?
Well, social media, I try and be pretty like cognizant of how much time I'm spending on it. I try and like gamify it a little bit.
Yeah.
So like, I watch my screen time like, you know, every like few times a week to see like where I'm at with my screen time, and I try and like be competitive with myself. Like, I saw at one point late last year when I was not doing well, it was like 6.5 hours. Think about that.
Wow. Yeah.
That's not crazy either. That's standard for a lot of people. Think about that though.
Unreal. Eh?
Your screen is open for you're awake for fucking 16 hours. 6.5 of them, you're looking at your screen. Your eyes are on your screen.
Unreal.
What the fuck? That is mental as a concept. That is insane. You know, like, so I try to make a bit of a like cognizant effort to really dial that back, and now I'm like average like 3 to 4, and even if it's 4, I'm like really upset. I'll try and like, not really upset, but you know, I'll try and, you know, when the new week will start, I'm like, right, I'm going to have a Sunday, like phone free day. I'm going to get off to a good start. It's fucked that I think you have to think about it. But
yeah.
I try and like gamify it and compete with myself to like stay within what I think is like, I don't think it's healthy, but what I think is like acceptable because of how addicted I am and how connected I am with through the phone. You know, like it's not healthy, but it's like what I will accept.
Yeah.
So I'm trying my hardest to like stay off my phone. I guess, like, this is maybe not through the podcast, but just in general, probably one thing that I've always been a big believer in, and I've kind of, adopted into my life, is a morning routine. Having said that, this year I've had quite a poor morning routine. Like, I haven't done all that much for myself in the mornings.
Yeah.
But I mean, I walk my dog for 45 minutes every morning.
Dude, your dog's cute as. Eh? Yeah. Holy jeez. I was going to say, are you ever going to get rid of social media? But not until, like, as long as the dog stays around.
Oh, dude. Not until I get a girlfriend or settle down. It's just a conversation starter.
Yeah.
It's the only reason I use social media, really.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're being honest, mate. Yeah.
No, but in all seriousness, like a morning routine, you know, I've always been pretty big on a morning routine, and I think, like, you know, because if you have, like, say for example, you have a shit day at work, and then, you know, you come home in the afternoon or the evening, and, like, your wife, your partner, your husband, your housemates, whatever, you have, like, a shit afternoon, evening, like, that happens a lot with people. But if you've had, like, 2 hours in the morning where you've had a really good crack and, like, you've done a lot of things for yourself and whatever, then let's just say, like, morning routine and the rest of the day. That's how I look at it. Might be not the best way to look at it, but I look at the morning routine and the rest of the day. So if you have a really good morning routine and you have, you know, a terrible rest of the day, everything goes to shit, then you've kind of had a pretty break-even day. Like, you're like, I meditated, I went for an awesome walk with my dog, you know, I cooked breakfast for my, you know, spouse or loved one, whatever, you know, a gratitude journal. Like, this is, I've always had a pretty tight morning routine. This year, really not so much. But, you know, if you've done all that for yourself and then you've had a shit day, you've kind of, like, broken even, you know. Whereas if you have an absolute winner of a morning and you have a winner of a day, you've had an absolute fucking blinder.
Yeah.
It's a way to control, like, how your day goes.
Yeah.
Have I had a good day or a bad day?
Yeah.
And I think one of the reasons why I'm probably not as bloody, like, big on the morning routine this year is I've just been feeling really good. You know, I've got a pretty good work-life balance, and, like, things are good. I think I still should be doing more of it because I really do believe in it, whether you're, like, having a bit of a shit time or you're just having a good time.
Yeah.
You know, just having a regular life. It's something that you should probably be doing. But, morning routine's always been a massive one for me. Do you get into morning routine stuff?
Yeah, I mean, like, I guess just kind of naturally, I always started my day when I ran to work.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Or I cycled to work.
Yep.
And without really knowing it, I guess that was part of my morning routine.
That's a huge win.
Yeah.
Massive
Unreal,
win.
hey?
Yeah.
Especially, and that was, like, big time, like, living in London kind of thing. And not that I'm saying I was big time, but it was that's what I was.
I reckon you were, mate.
So getting that was always, and I guess I never realised it until to say, like, I didn't need to, like, commute or anything like that. I was like, oh, actually, hang on a second, like, yeah, it is a massive thing. And then obviously, like, over the kind of the last few years more so, just being aware of the concept of meditation and that being a big thing, and breath work and that being a big thing, and cold showers and cold water and that becoming a big thing. And I just start to build them in and I guess just make them that daily habit. Not always as part of the morning routine, but once you take that responsibility to set your internal compass up in the morning to head in a positive direction, it's going to take some pretty big external things to knock that compass off balance and off course. And I think the more we also realize that we're responsible for what's going on in many ways, you know.
Yep.
And not blame it on that person who cuts you off in traffic, like, or whatever, you know. And I feel, and I guess, like, to your point, it's a huge thing, and hopefully, you know, when it just builds into that concept of a little bit more freedom outside of that traditional working model that we get slayed with. It's like wake up, get to work, and it's like, well, you know, if you had a bit more freedom, you didn't have to get into the office, but even if you did have to get in the office, like, the world's a little bit more accepting these days. You could fucking just go sit on the bathroom in the bathroom on the toilet and meditate 10 minutes and you'd be sweet.
yeah, you've just owned a little bit more of your day rather than other people, you know, dictating your day a little bit. But yeah, no, and I like just the, you know, it doesn't have to be morning either. I think that's a good thing that you said is like, I guess arming yourself with like lots of different bits and pieces that you understand why they're good for you and trying to build them in. You know, like one of the things that I did when I was last year just feeling really, really shit and trying to pull myself back to feeling all right was I was trying to like, trying to make sure that I booked in things with my mates in my diary. Like, fucking locked them in. Yeah. Like ahead of time, like 2 weeks, like, oi, Wednesday, like next week or whatever, let's go rock climbing, you know, like, you know, oi, let's have lunch in a month, like I'm going to put in the diary. Like just, because like when it comes up to that week and I was like feeling really shit, you know, it's just a nightmare. Like you don't want to reach out to anyone, you don't want to do this, that. So I was always like, right, just try and fill my days with, not like every day, fill my weeks with, you know, catching up with you know, my friends and family or whatever. And I think that's, you know, another important one. But no, I think, yeah, I've learned heaps of stuff around, you know, from the podcast and just in general, just from going through heaps of shit. And I think, I think the best thing to do, like, to live a good life is kind of just educate yourself on yourself and how you operate and things that make you tick, things that make you, you know, feel like you're the best version of yourself. And you don't always have to be that, but just having like a bit of a toolbox, you know? Yeah. Because I remember Frey, remember James? Yeah. So he was doing really quite poorly for a while there. He was like having a real tough time and he was like, yeah, he was not good. And anyway, I was talking to him because he's like my best mate, oldest mate. I've known him he's been my best mate since 4 years old, you know? Yeah. And God, you guys used to be rascals. Yeah. That's far out. Oh, yeah, we had a good crack at it early days, yeah. He was not doing well. And I remember having a beer with him at this joint in Port Melbourne, in just near where I lived. I forget what it's called, but just this little bar. We're sitting outside and he was like talking about all this stuff that was going on, how he was feeling. And I was like, oh, have you tried this? Have you tried this? Have you tried this? Just like giving him like ideas and like bit of feedback and things that have worked for me or whatever. And he said to me, he's like, mate, how do you know so much about this? And I'm like, I don't, dude. I've just been to the psychologist a shitload of times. I've read a number of books on like psychology and like culture, and I've just tried to figure it out by necessity. And now I have a pretty like well-rounded toolbox. It doesn't mean that, you know, I don't go through hectic, like terrible feelings, and, you know, I had depression last year and I had a pretty decent sized skill set of things that make me feel good and whatever. Still, you know, unequivocally had depression. I was bawling my eyes out Christmas Day, you know. But, you know, I think knowing more about yourself, having all these, you know, tactics up your sleeve and so forth in terms of like, all right, cool, I'm feeling a little bit, you know, beat up and run down, a little bit, you know, down this week or this month. Like, I've got to get back into morning routine, you know. I've got to go do that, you know, morning swim that I like to do every week. I've got to go, you know, make sure I'm walking my dog twice every day because I'm, instead of rushing to the office, whatever it is, different for everyone, you know. And I think knowing what makes you tick and just being real cognizant of it and trying to like build it in, it's mega, I reckon, because so much of your life is like work and you know, like everyone's so busy these days, like it's hard to remember to do stuff for yourself, I reckon. Yeah. So, yeah. It makes me, you've got that book over there, Start With Why. Yeah. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on that and how you build that into, like, I assume because it's in your office, it's probably more art than actual text that you read. I haven't read it. It's good. I mean, it looks brand new. Well, Start With Why is, I mean, Simon Sinek, the author of Start With Why, he's my number one, like if I could have one, like business coach or whatever, / life coach, whatever you want to call him, but I would say business coach. If I could have one business coach that, like worldwide, I'm talking above Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, you know, Richard Branson, Bill Gates, whatever. Like, I would choose Simon Sinek without a shadow of a doubt. He's a weapon. Have you read that? Have you read Start With Why? How sick is it? Talk about internal compass. A mate of mine in Tahoe gave it to me at the start of this year, actually, and I made a lot of decisions at the start of this year about a lot of huge decisions that totally changed the trajectory of what I'm doing right now. Yep. And it's a large amount of it's because of that book. Really? Yeah. And that's so good. Unreal. And I'm so pumped that you're saying that about the author and just like, tell me more about like your experience with it, mate. Oh, well, I mean, I got onto Simon Sinek from his TED Talk, Great Leaders Inspire Action or something it's called. It's basically the Start With Why talk, but it's not called that. It's called something else.
Yeah.
And then I also saw Simon Sinek when he was doing that riff on like millennials. Remember that thing that was floating around? It just went viral, fully viral. No. It was a talk on like hiring millennials and like why millennials why you should hire millennials in like the new workforce. It went really viral. Anyway, it was just a like comment on like society. It was about 5 years ago.
Yeah.
But anyway,
must have been on my off day.
Yeah.
Social media. Yeah.
But I just really kind of like clicked with everything he was saying, and then I've read Start With Why, Find Your Why, Leaders Eat Last, and I think he's got another book. I've read all his books. Leaders Eat Last is unreal.
Yeah, right.
Really good. That's his most recent? No.
Okay.
No, that's right. And The Infinite Game. The Infinite Game is also, that's his most recent. I've read them all. Leaders Eat Last is good.
Just the titles in themselves.
They're good.
So deep.
Start with why, like obviously, brands are built around the why you exist, not, what you do or how you do it. Leaders Eat Last is like basically, how to inspire people, how to be a good empathetic leader, and like, like how to be a good, just like inspirational leader. Just how to be a leader in general. Epic book. And then The Infinite Game is like how to build a company that stands the test of time. And that's sick. Like, it basically pushes back on, people that are, one of the biggest things in The Infinite Game is like, it pushes back on the idea of, okay, cool, we need to hit our targets this financial quarter, and if we don't, we're going to have to reduce overheads to hit profitability. Like, you have to fire people.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, we've set ridiculously. They might be like, might not be ridiculous in terms of like, attainability, but like we've set targets as a company. You could have just pulled them out of a hat.
Yeah.
It's just a random number.
Yeah.
Like, and we put people's livelihoods, putting food on their table for their family, whatever. We put that at stake, and we fire people because we didn't hit some arbitrary number that's made up that just sits there in the ether. Like, who gives a fuck about it? And that's like, I guess listed companies, corporate world, all that kind of stuff. It's just dumb. It just makes no sense. It's no way to treat people. It's no way to build something you can be proud of. It's just ridiculous. So The Infinite Game is really good as well in terms of just like building a company that's set to last, that's like doing good, for its people and for the community it serves. Simon Sinek's a mad dog. Like, everything that he's ever written, I'm really aligned with. Like, not really because like, it's just common sense to me.
Yeah.
It's just like, well, duh.
Yeah.
Like it's revolutionary, but if you think about it, it's literally like, fucking, no shit. But they're bestsellers.
Yeah.
Because it's contrary. It's common sense, but it's contrary, which just shows we're morons.
Yeah. No, it's so funny you bring that up because like anything, like even like you say, like coming back to the morning routine and taking your dog for a walk, it's not like you're not plugging into something that's like, I don't know, fucking
some revolutionary technology. Yeah.
Stimulating your brain. Yeah. You're just taking your dog for a walk. It's so simple, but it's the best, right?
100%.
Like, and you're right. Like we are morons, and we're like, well, someone sold us something on something that actually, like maybe at the time they thought it was definitely going to be a working thing, but let's bring it back to reality, and like, no, just taking your dog for a walk's pretty damn good thing for your health.
Yeah, no,
so
for
many
sure,
ways.
For sure. And I think that's a big part of what's going on these days. Like I think of, there was another book that was sitting on here, and it's called Tribe. I thought it was still in here, but it's not.
Not this one. What's
Oh, this is actually. Do you remember? Have you ever seen the book The Game? It's like the pickup book. So
totally.
when I tell you what this is, it's going to sound shit, right? But so Mark Manson, Subtle Art of Giving a Fuck.
Yeah.
Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck.
I thought that was him. Yeah.
So I'd read the Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, and I was flying up to Byron Bay one time, and I was looking for a book in the airport, and then I was like, oh, Mark Manson. Yeah, he's a big deal. So I picked up this book, and its models attract women through honesty, and I was like, attract women through honesty? I'm like, how the fuck? So, and then I read it, and it's basically like for men how to pick up women.
Oh, wow.
By Mark Manson. However, so it sounds like shithouse. Oh, it doesn't sound shit house, but it sounds like that book, The Game, which was the first book I ever didn't read through. I was like, this is trash.
Yeah.
But this book is awesome. It's actually like written in a really fun, engaging way, like his other books. But it's really just like a psychological plus cultural like exploration of how men and women interact.
Wow.
It's really good. It's sick. Because when I got up to Byron Bay, I was going to Drew's joint, my old business partner, and my mate Jaden was up there. He was working with Drew at the time on this other thing. And Jaden was into me. He's like, oh, fucking have a look at this. Have a look at this, what Doc's reading. And then all the boys were ripping into me. And anyway, Jaden ended up reading a bit of it while we were up there, because we were up there for like 4 days, and then I gave it to him at the end because I finished it, and he loved it. It's a sick book.
I think Mark Manson's onto something there, because when you look at the titles of his books, they suck a lot of people in.
100%.
And then you read, like, I remember reading The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, and I was like, I read the first bit of it, and I was like, I'm not digging this. I'm not digging this, mate. It's so shallow. Like, stop using the word F. Cool. Like, it's not cool anymore. Like, you've got it on the cover and it's bright yellow. Like, stop using it. And then, like, in one page, the whole book changed, and it, like you said, it gets like psychological. It's like actually got some meat and like some real good stuff in it. And I feel like he's just totally. It must be a formula. He's just like, this is a real good thing to do.
This book here is just very much, just like explains how men and women are attracted to each other and like how they interact. It's literally like a psychoanalysis of both men and women. Just like that's kind of what it is, written in a real funny way. But it's pretty interesting. There's one bit in there, and it sums up like dudes in terms of like how they interact with women, and it's always and where it breaks down, and it like helps you at like one of these stages. And it's like there's 4 stages. It's like attracting women in terms of like, you know, getting a date, basically. Like the approach, you would call it.
Right, yeah.
Hey, I think you're cute, like, or you're really, like, really awesome to meet you. Like, do you want to go grab a coffee one time? Like, that's one part. Second part is like the first kiss. Third part is like crossing the sexual line. And then the fourth is like moving from sexual to like happy relationship, like getting into a relationship. They're like the 4 parts of like, because the idea is to like, this book, the idea is to like help dudes get into relationships. Really, that's kind of why it's written. It's about men and women, and like, I know chicks that have read this, but it's kind of like written for dudes in a little bit. But he talks about like, out of those 4 steps in terms of like from single to relationship, you know, men break down in 1, 2, 3, or all 4 ways. And like, it's quite interesting because I've talked to heaps of people about it. So like, if you obviously fall down in like all 4 ways, you're having a tough time.
You're falling over.
Real struggle street, you know? Yeah. And then like, a lot of people, you know, struggling in 3 of the 4 ways, and you know, really like, that's a tough time too. Most guys are like 2 and 2. Find 2 of them really, really difficult. And then guys that, you know, you would see as like externally seen as like doing well with women. Would normally be strong in 3 and poor in 1. And then like Don Juan or whatever would be like, you know, 4 out of 4 or whatever. You know, it's made up people basically. Made up guys.
Unicorns.
So, and it was quite interesting because I've always felt very comfortable in like steps 2, 3, and 4. But step 1, like for me, because I would probably be someone that people would consider would do relatively well with girls, well with women, and just like in terms of like getting relationships, like, you know, going on dates or whatever. I've never super duper struggled really, but it's funny because the way that he breaks it down, like step 1 for me of like the approach, fucking hell, dude, like my God, it is, I would rather stick pins in my eyes. You know, like, it is. If I've got someone's attention, if I'm hanging out with a chick and like, you know, we're on date number 1 and like we're there to like spend time with I'm sweet. I'm like, cool. It might not be, you know, I'm single. I'm 34 and single. Can't be doing it all that well. But like, it's cool. Like, we're going to have a good time. Like, I'm going to, you know, I'm not stressed. I'm not stressed about the rest of it, you know. Whether step 2, 3 or 4, you know, would happen. But But step one, oh, dude, it's an absolute just ball breaker for me. It sucks. I hate it.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to give you some advice, mate, but I got none. I got none. I might have to borrow that book, to be honest.
I reckon like our fathers and our grandfathers would have been way better at the approach than us.
Yeah.
Just because we're like, social media age, we sit in front of computers. Yeah. We got, dating apps now.
There's so much going on. Like, much going on. Like, so many stories we create and whatnot. And it's crazy.
100%. So, I actually suck at number one, and look, I secretly suck at number 2, 3, and 4 as well. But but I megally suck at number one. So it's interesting anyway. But
it's a classic, and I knew it would go this way. A classic, like I had a few things written down and like totally didn't go there at all. But
that's probably a good thing.
No, mate. It's just, I mean, to be honest, it's just been great to catch up a bit more and bloody and I feel like I'm just pumped to be able to, like hear that what is driving where you're going is like legit, and that you seem like you're in a much better space at the moment, too.
I'm pretty cruising. October I had a bit of a shit one. I reckon the lockdown got to me a bit, but overall I've had a really good 2020 personally, and that's, all things considered, I can't complain.
Yeah,
so
absolutely,
I'm cruising, mate. I'm pretty happy at the moment. So
what's the last thing you'd leave people to think about and ponder for, mate? With all your wisdom that you've garnered, what's one thing that you can just drop a little seed for someone? Wisdom.
Well, look, the one thing that people often, I guess, the one thing outside looking in, we're talking about like outside looking in with me when I catch up with people, the one thing that I think I've been able to do well has been, have a crack at things. And oftentimes when people come to me and they're like, oh man, I'm having a bit of a shit one, and I see your Instagram and the stuff you've built, and that's, as I said, that's all bullshit anyway. But that people have said that to me, and I think people can create their own reality, create their own life, do whatever they want. Everyone's capable of everything, really, for the most part.
Yeah.
Some people are born a little bit disadvantaged in terms of like whatever. It's a lot of moving parts, but like primarily like if you go out and put your front good foot forward and have a crack at something, it's you're either gonna succeed or you're gonna learn some stuff, and I know I've been able to have a pretty interesting life and achieve some cool stuff, see the world, and I can be quite proud of everything that I've done, I reckon. And I feel like people get, held back by, the what ifs and this, that, and the other, and, what if this happens, what if that happens, and at the end of the day, like whatever you want to try and put your mind to, like if it doesn't work out, then it doesn't work out. Who cares,
Yeah.
Get out there and have a crack at things, and that's what I've always done, and I guess, I don't think I'm any different than anyone else, but I guess, I've been able to achieve some things, and it's just by thinking, all right, cool, well, if I fail, then I fail, and who gives a shit if I do?
Yeah.
Just that's what I've been able to kind of do in terms of, my life, and I guess if I can impart any wisdom, that's probably the one thing that people say to me. They say, I'd love to do this, I'd love to do that, and well, have a crack. If it doesn't work out, move on to the next thing. It's not all that scary. Really. It shouldn't be that scary. So I wasn't really prepared for anything good there, wisdom-wise, but
hey, you nailed it. Simple, mate. Just absolutely. Like try, get a try, right? Like,
no harm in trying,
Yeah. Well, you're a good example of that, mate, and I look forward to just keeping tabs on you and see where it goes.
Thanks, brother.
Cheers,
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Thanks everyone for tuning in for this conversation today on Stokely with Bill Kerr. Please check out Athyna.co for some more info and background to the work they're doing. And until next time, I hope you're all doing really well out there in the times we're in at the moment. It's still pretty tough in many regards, but there's also many, many tunnels with many, many lights at the end of them. So keep well, look after yourselves, and we look forward to next time. Thanks a lot.